Hi Engineering 1210. So you've gone through the previous tutorial, you've gone through some of the introductory videos, and I hope now you're at a point where you can start up Solidworks without too much fear. I've been using it for years now and it's still scary and frustrating and annoying, but the more you do with it, the more cool stuff you can do and the more trouble you'll get yourself in. So with that in mind, you've made your first part with it and following the previous work. Now you're being asked in your current tutorial to make something a little bit more sophisticated, and I want to go through showing you something about how to do that. So just like before, let's start with paper, or in my case a tablet so you can see it, and I want to make a little birdhouse. Now, the thing is that the birdhouse is a real thing. I'm not just making this up. I intend to put this birdhouse on a tree in my backyard. So the tree in my backyard has certain dimensional requirements that will be necessary for me to appreciate as I'm designing my birdhouse. And I'm just going to try and sketch that out for you and walk you through my design thinking for this. So here's the tree in my backyard really simplistically. I haven't cut all the branches off, but basically my tree has some branches like this, and it's a pine tree that I want to put this on. So it's got some branches sticking out in several different directions. I can't really draw this too well, but if you've looked at a pine tree, you'll know that usually there's a certain level of branch height, and then there's another rack of those branches at each level as the tree grows. In fact, I've seen a really cool sculpture at the Ontario Art Gallery, AGO, Art Gallery of Ontario, that is like a tree peeled apart to find the baby tree inside it. Very cool. This is the tree in my backyard. Now, I'd really like to put my birdhouse so that I can just hang it on these branches. So now if I look at those branches, let's say I look from above, there's 5 of them around kind of like a wheel of pine tree branches. And my intention is to hang my birdhouse from these 2 with hooks, and I want a birdhouse that kind of goes in between them like so. Not a very good drawing, but now if I go out in the yard and I measure, first of all, these are approximately 2-inch diameter branches, or we'll say that's 50 millimeters. And the trunk diameter is such that if I zoom in here, I see that the spacing here is 4 inches, or 100 millimeters approximately. And that's 50 approximately, and that's 50. Then my birdhouse has to fit there, which means that I want to make a birdhouse that in plan section kind of looks like this from above, where I'm going to make this dimension. I know it's got to fit into 100. I'm going to make that 75 just to make sure that it fits in 100. And I'm going to make this something bigger, let's say, and I could measure the angle here, and I could do, and I should do some more calculation, but I'm lazy. We all are a little bit. And I'm going to just simply take my tape measure out in the yard, and I'm going to measure that and find that that dimension, if it's 200, I should be good. So I've got this trapezoidal shaped birdhouse, and I think I'm going to make that 100. So there's my trapezoidal birdhouse in plan view. So the birdhouse I want to make, I'm going to make something that actually will be kind of weird, in that it's going to have a half round top. It's going to have a bottom. It's going to be tapered back in the back to half round to the bottom. It's kind of looking like a slice of bread or something, and it'll have the bird house entry and a little perch. And there's my birdhouse. However, the one thing I need to have is a place for it to hook over these branches. So I need to have some tabs of some kind on the sides. So there's my birdhouse. Let's get started. Here we are back in Solidworks. I'm going to go and have a new part. And you've been through this before. I'm going to go on the top plane, and I can start with a sketch. I can start with an extruded base. I'm going to start with an extruded base. And I'm going to draw lines. There's a line, there's a line, there's a line, and there's a line. Escape. There's my trapezoid from the top. Not really much of a trapezoid, so I'm going to take that point, Control select that point, and you've seen this before with the relations, and in this case with those 2 points, point 1 and point 5, I'm going to merge them. Bam. Now I'm going to make this vertical, and so that sets that up. I'm going to make this one in relation to this one parallel. There. So now I can move any of these parts around. They do whatever wonky things. I'm going to make, dimensionally speaking, well, let's see. I'm gonna, I think about carefully the geometry. As a trapezoid, I want to make that point and that midpoint. Control select that. So I've selected the 2 midpoints, point 1 and point 6. I'm going to make them horizontal. There. So now, watch what happens if I move this around. So now I've got geometry that is kind of reflecting what I wanted in the way I was imagining this thing. I can put some dimensions on now. Now I can dimension that. I said that was going to be 75. Bam. I said this was going to be 200. Well, it's not too far off there. 200. And I said that distance-wise, this to here, whoa, that's pretty close too, was going to be 100. Not bad for guesswork, eh? There. So now, if I drag these points, the only thing left is that they're all over the place. So it's still not fully fixed. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take this point and I'll fix it. There. Now you can see my trapezoid is fixed and complete. There we go. one thing I didn't say was how tall my birdhouse was going to be. Just looking back here, just kind of looking at it, thinking, how tall should it be? I don't know. I'm just increasing it by 10 millimeters each bit. I don't know. That looks kind of birdhousey. There. So there's my trapezoid of my birdhouse. The roof line doesn't look quite right. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to make the roof, like I said, I wanted to make it a round thing. There's a bunch of ways. I could try fillet, and I could grab that edge, and I could make that that fillet. And then I could take this edge, and I could make that a fillet. Yeah, not liking that too much. Oops. Delete those. I know. How about if I do a cut? I'm going to do an extruded cut. I'm going to pick this face to start the cut. I'm going to, basically, I want to cut it based upon what's already here to some extent. And there's these other tools, offset and convert. Convert entities, when you're doing multiple sketches, is a really handy thing. If you select this, and I pick this face, actually you can see that this button, select chain, is helpful. I'm going to pick that face. And now you can see that in the sketch in which I'm working, there's now these black lines that are essentially tracing that face. So with that, I'm going to make an arc. Yikes, there's an arc. What's this arc going to do? Well, you already know from a previous video that if I pick the end of this arc and I pick control that line, I can make them coincident. If I pick that and that, I can make them coincident. If I pick that and that, I could make them horizontal. And I could even go that line and that line, and I could make them tangent. So now I've got this shape that has the square, and it's got this circle. See what that looks like. Now I select it, and there's different regions that I can cut, and it knows that already. So I want to cut that region, and I want to cut that region. And there's what I end up with. Do I like that? Not terribly. But you know, what I'd really like is I'd like to have this roof line kind of sloping. I'd like to have it higher here than it is here. And there's a bunch of ways I could do that. I'm going to try messing with the way that I started that cut. Now, recall with the sketch, one of the things you can do is you can edit the sketch plane. You can start a sketch on any plane you like. Problem is that the only planes I have in this model are front plane, top plane, right plane, and then as I build up the model, the face planes of each of the parts. If I roll up here, I think what I want is to make a new plane. And you'll see that there's this reference geometry plane. And so my first reference, I'm going to pick this plane, and I want to make it at some angle to that plane. Let's see what that does. Yeah, that didn't help. Oh, if we pick coincident, that's not going to work. We pick angle. And that gives us that sort of an angle, so that's not what I wanted. What if I pick that line? Ah, now we're looking at something that's pretty realistic. Maybe I want to make a plane like that. And I could pick, oh, I don't know. What do you think? 150? I'm pretty close to it there. There, 150 degrees. So now I've created a plane like that. And if I roll forward, I can go to my sketch. Sorry, I guess I want to look at this. I can edit the sketch plane. I don't want to do that sketch on there. I want to do it on that plane. Now, one problem is that it flipped it upside down. We'll deal with that in a second. The weird thing is when you do this sketch plane definition with an existing thing, it sometimes gets confused as to which direction you're in. In the case of that plane, let's go in and edit that plane. Sorry. I bet there's always a reason why it defines things in weird ways. And if I edit this plane definition, it's because I flipped it up there, 150. I think what I want to do is I want to put the plane that way. There. Oh, I think I want it 330. There. There we go. So now it's cut this thing, but not exactly as I wanted. So I have to go in and make sure that my cut is a little different. So it certainly cut that circle like so. You can see that I hadn't specified how far down that circle was, so it picked whatever it thought was right. But the other thing is that it cut specifically projecting through that plane. And so what I really want to do is I want to add to this so it cuts through everything. And so I can do that by a couple more lines, up, over, and down. And if I make that coincident with that, and if I make that coincident with that, and I'll make this vertical, and I'll make this vertical, and I'll make this horizontal, then it's got some more sketch to work with. Recall now, I can still, in the region, I can pick that too. There. So now I've cut the kind of roof line that I want. Looks kind of wonky, but hey, it's a birdhouse. So we'll stop there because this video is getting way too long, and we'll resume to finish this off in another video.